My name is Luke Harris. I am 36 years old, and for the last 4 years I have been living like a ghost on the edge of a small town in Colorado. I own a little horse ranch outside Boulder, just far enough from the city that the nights are quiet and the stars still mean something. People around here know me as the guy who works hard, keeps to himself, and never brings anyone home. They do not know I talk to a grave more than I talk to any living person. Her name is Olivia Green, my neighbor, the woman who moved onto the property next to mine 8 months ago with a U-Haul, too many boxes, and a kind of tired hope in her eyes that I recognized even from my porch. The first time I saw her, she was standing in her driveway with her hands on her hips, staring at a broken fence post like it had insulted her personally. She had dark hair pulled into a messy ponytail, sunscreen half rubbed into her cheek, and a pair of jeans that still looked too clean for real ranch work. She waved at me across the fence line that separates our land. I lifted my hand, gave a small nod, then went back to stacking hay like my life depended on it. We spent months like that. Little waves in the morning when she tried to figure out how to use the old tractor the previous owner left behind. Brief hellos when we crossed paths at the feed store in town. Her trying to act like she belonged here. Me trying to pretend I did not notice the way she watched me when I calmed a skittish horse or fixed a broken gate with quiet patience. 8 months of being neighbors, and we never had a real conversation. Part of that was my fault. Most of it was my fault. It is easier to talk to the dead. They do not ask you to move on. Then the 4th of July barbecue happened. Every year the town throws a big cookout at the fairgrounds. There are kids running around with flags, teenagers leaning against trucks, old men playing cards in the shade, and someone always brings a cooler full of beer big enough to drown in. This year, my foreman, Mike, shoved a plate of ribs into my hands and told me I was going whether I liked it or not. "You need to be around people, Luke," he said. "Real ones, not just the ones in the cemetery." So I went. I stood near the grill with a paper plate I did not plan to eat, beer sweating in my hand, and tried to ignore the couples laughing at picnic tables and the way my chest ached when I saw a guy put his arm around his wife without thinking about it. That is when Olivia walked in. She wore a white sundress that made her skin look even more golden from the summer sun, a light denim jacket, and boots that had seen enough dirt to look real. Her hair was down for once, loose around her shoulders, and she smelled like citrus and smoke when she passed me in the line for food. "Hey, neighbor," she said with a quick smile. "You clean up nice." I almost forgot how to talk. "You too." Quote, "We ended up at the same long table because small towns like to seat people by habit. My ranch crew on one end, her at the other, with some of the local women who had decided it was their personal mission to welcome the new girl. There was music playing from an old speaker, kids chasing each other with sparklers, and a sky that was just starting to turn pink with the first hint of sunset. Someone passed Olivia a beer. She took it, took a long sip, and laughed at something one of the women said. Her shoulders loosened. Her cheeks flushed a little. The more the night went on, the more she kept looking down the table at me, the man who refused to join the conversations, the man who only spoke when spoken to. Then it happened. Mike was telling a story about the time I broke up a bar fight by talking a wild horse down from panic. Everyone was laughing, the kind of loud summer laughter that makes the air feel warm even after the sun goes down. Olivia leaned her elbows on the table, head tilted, eyes locked on me like she was trying to figure out a puzzle. "You seem to be good in bed," she said suddenly. Her voice carried over the music and chatter. "Are you married?" Quote, you could have heard a pin drop on the other side of the fairgrounds. Someone dropped a plastic fork. A kid stopped in the middle of swinging a sparkler. Mike choked on his beer so hard I thought he might pass out. Every eye at that table snapped to me. Some of the older ladies gasped like they had never heard a forward question before, even though most of them had probably asked worse when they were young. Olivia froze at her own words. Her eyes went wide. Her hand flew to her mouth, too late to take them back. "I mean, that came out wrong," she stammered, face turning bright red. "I just meant the way you handled the horses and the way you fix things, and I do not know, that sounded much better in my head." She looked like she wanted the picnic table to open and swallow her whole. I should have laughed it off, made a joke, eased the tension. Any normal man would have done that. But I am not normal. I am a widower who still wears his wedding ring on a chain under his shirt. A man who sleeps on one side of the bed because the other side belongs to a memory. So I answered with the only truth that lives in my chest. "No, ma'am," I said, my voice rough and steady. "I am not married. I am still waiting for her." The words dropped between us like a stone in deep water. People shifted in their seats. Some looked away with awkward sympathy. Others stared at me like I had just confessed to a crime. Olivia blinked, her blush fading into something else. Confusion, curiosity, a hint of hurt, like she had reached out and touched something sharp without meaning to. "I did not know," she said softly. "I am sorry, Luke. I did not mean to disrespect your wife." I shook my head. "You did not." What I did not tell her was that my wife, Hannah, had been dead for 4 years. That when I said I was waiting for her, I meant I was waiting for a sign. Waiting for permission. Waiting for the day it would not feel like betrayal to look at another woman and feel something other than pain. The rest of the night was a blur. People went back to talking, but the easy laughter never fully returned to our end of the table. Olivia kept stealing glances at me, but she did not say anything else. When the fireworks started, she stood with the crowd while I slipped away like I always did, to the place where I actually felt honest. The cemetery sits on a small hill just outside town, surrounded by an old iron fence. At night it is quiet, in a way nothing else is. The stars feel closer there. The world feels smaller. I parked my truck by the gate, grabbed the small bouquet of wildflowers I had picked earlier, and walked the path I could follow with my eyes closed. Hannah's grave is under a big oak tree near the back. The stone is simple. Her name, the dates. A line she chose herself when we sat in that cold hospital room and made plans no young couple should have to make. Love is a promise you keep, even when it hurts. I knelt down, laid the flowers at the base of the headstone, and pressed my palm flat against the cool stone like I had done 1,000 times before. "Hey, baby," I said quietly. "You would have laughed tonight." I told her about the barbecue, about my neighbor, about the question that had stunned the whole town, about the way something in my chest had shifted when Olivia asked if I was good in bed, not like she was joking, but like she was trying to figure out if a real man still lived under all my quiet. "I told her I was waiting for you," I said. My throat tightened. "But the truth is, I do not even know what I am waiting for anymore. A sign, maybe. A dream. A voice that says it is okay to stop hurting." The wind moved through the oak leaves above me. The air smelled like cut grass and dust, and the faint sweetness of the flowers I had just laid down. For a long time, it was just me and the stone and the memories. Then I heard it, the soft crunch of gravel behind me, a quick intake of breath, the sound of someone trying very hard not to be heard. I did not turn right away. Grief teaches you the difference between your own thoughts and another person's presence. Whoever was there, they were not a stranger passing by. "How long have you been listening?" I asked, still facing the grave. There was a pause. Then a familiar voice, shaky but clear, answered from the dark. "Long enough," Olivia said. "Long enough to know you were not waiting for what I thought you were." I turned then. She was standing about 20 feet away, just inside the line of headstones, lit by the small solar light at the base of Hannah's grave and the pale glow of the moon. No makeup now, hair tied up messy, hoodie over her dress, sneakers instead of boots. She looked like she had run out of her house without thinking too hard about it. Her eyes were shiny with tears she was trying hard to blink away. "Olivia," I said, pushing myself to my feet. "You should not be here." "Yeah," she gave a small shaky laugh. "That is what everyone says about me no matter where I go." Quote. She stepped closer, careful not to step on any graves like she was afraid of disrespecting the dead. Her hands were jammed into the pocket of her hoodie. She looked at the headstone, read Hannah's name, and something in her face softened. "I did not know," she said again. "I just thought you were one of those guys who says he is, waiting for the right one, because it sounds romantic." Quote. "It is not romantic," I said. "It is just stuck." She nodded slowly. For a minute, we just stood there in the quiet. 3 people if you counted the woman under the ground. You followed me, I said finally. Yeah. She winced a little. I saw you leave the barbecue. You left before the fireworks even started. I told myself I was just going for a drive to clear my head, but when you turned up this road, I knew where you were going. I have been here a few times. My eyes went to her face. You have someone here? Quote. No, she said quickly. Not yet, anyway. I just like the quiet. And sometimes I feel closer to the girl I used to be here than anywhere else. Quote. There was something in the way she said that. Like she had lost someone too, but the person she lost was herself. I leaned back against the base of the oak tree. What did you mean back there when you said you thought I was waiting for something else? Quote. She swallowed, looked down at her sneakers, then up at me like she was making a decision. I thought you meant you were waiting for some perfect woman to show up and fix you, she said. You know, the way men in movies say they are, waiting for her, like it is some big romantic speech, when really they are just afraid of doing the work. I huffed out a breath that might have been a laugh. Trust me, nobody is fixing me. I do not know, she said quietly. I have watched you for 8 months, Luke. The way she said it should have sounded creepy. It did not. It sounded honest. I see you out there with those horses, she went on. The way you talk to them when they are scared. The way you give them space and time, but you do not give up on them. You fix fences and tractors in that old barn like none of it is too broken to bother with. But then I see you shut down whenever someone gets too close. You walk around like you are carrying 40 pounds of guilt in your chest. Her eyes met mine in the dim light. There was no judgment there, just knowing. So when I opened my big mouth and said you seemed good in bed, she added, cheeks flushing, even in the dark, I was not talking about sex exactly. What were you talking about then? I asked. She took a breath, like this answer cost something. I wanted to know if you remembered how to be present, she said. If you remembered how to touch someone without using them or worshiping them like they are some kind of saint. If you could be gentle with a woman the way you are gentle with those horses. If there was any man left in there who was not just married to a ghost. The words landed heavy in the air between us. I am not married, I said by habit. She lifted her chin toward the headstone. You might not have a legal wife, Luke, but you are married to this stone, to the guilt you bring here every night, to the promises you think you broke. A flash of anger moved through me, not at her exactly, at the fact that she was right. You do not know what promise I made, I said. She nodded. You are right. I do not. Maybe you should tell me. Quote, the thing about talking to a grave is you never have to explain yourself. The dead already know, or they never will. Talking to the living is different. They can misunderstand. They can judge. They can walk away. But something about the way she stood there, hands shaking just a little, shoulders tense like she was ready to bolt but staying anyway, made me want to try. When Hannah was dying, I began, voice rough. We had time to talk. Too much time. The doctors told us the truth straight. The treatment did not work. The cancer was in places they could not get to. We were not leaving that hospital with both of us breathing. Olivia's eyes softened. Luke. She made me promise, I said. She took my hand and made me look her in the eye and promise I would not close myself off. She said she knew me, knew I would build a wall around my heart and call it loyalty. She made me swear I would not treat grief like a wedding vow. My throat closed up. I looked at the name on the stone so I would not have to look at the pity in Olivia's eyes. I told her I would fall in love again one day, I said. I told her I would try. I promised her I would not let her death be the end of my life, too. Quote, and then she died, Olivia said softly. And then she died, I repeated. And it turns out it is easy to make promises in a hospital room and a lot harder to keep them when every time you look at another woman, you feel like you are cheating on a ghost. Olivia was quiet for a long moment. So instead of breaking your promise to her, she said slowly, you broke it your own way. You promised you would love again, but then you spent 4 years waiting for her to give you permission not to. I frowned. That is not what I... Luke, she cut in gently, you are waiting for a woman who cannot answer. You are asking questions to a stone. If she wanted you to be miserable forever, she would not have made you promise the opposite. Her words dug in under my ribs because they sounded like something Hannah would have said herself. The wind moved again, cooler this time. Somewhere in the distance a coyote called. A car rolled down the highway far off. Its headlights, a quick sweep of light through the trees, then gone. "You talk like you know something about this," I said. "About being married to something that hurts you." She let out a long breath and sank down onto the grass across from me, crossing her legs like this was the most natural place in the world to have this conversation. "I do not have a grave to visit," she said, "but I have ghosts." She picked at a loose thread on her hoodie, eyes on her hands instead of my face. "I left someone back in Dallas," she said finally. "A man who liked the idea of owning a wife more than loving one. We never made it to a wedding, thank God, but we did make it far enough that getting away almost killed me." My jaw tightened. "He hit you?" Quote. "Not at first," she said. "At first he just told me who my friends should be. Then he told me which clothes made me look respectable. Then he told me my job was too demanding, my parents were too involved, my opinions were too loud." She lifted her gaze. There was steel under the sadness now. "By the time he raised his hand, I was already so small inside I thought maybe I deserved it," she said. "Thought maybe if I was better in bed, better at cooking, better at shutting up, he would go back to the man he was in the beginning." I felt sick, angry, useless. Is he the reason you moved here?" I asked. "Part of it," she said. "My aunt left me that house next to yours. When I got the call about the will, it felt like a lifeline. Land he did not know about. A town he had no connection to. I packed a bag while he was at work, drove straight here, and never looked back." She gave a humorless little smile. "So when I saw you," she said, "this quiet man who fixes broken things and talks gentle to animals that kick and bite, I wondered if maybe there was a kind of man I had not known yet. One who could touch without taking. One who could be good in bed because he was good at being present, not because he was good at control." That stupid question at the barbecue made sense now. It was not a joke. It was a test. "I messed it up," she added quickly. "The words came out wrong. The beer did not help. But I meant it. I wanted to know if the man I have been half falling for from my kitchen window even exists, or if he died with his wife." Something in my chest lurched. "That is not fair," I said quietly. She nodded. "I know. It is not fair to ask a man who is still grieving to save me from my past. It is not fair to hope that the stranger next door might be the one person who understands what it feels like to be alive and dead at the same time." Her eyes filled with tears again. "But tonight," she said, looking at Hannah's grave, "I heard you ask your wife for a sign. Heard you tell her you are tired of being married to a ghost. And for a second I thought maybe that is my sign too. That maybe I am allowed to stop being married to fear." Before I could answer, headlights swept slowly across the cemetery gates. Not fast, like someone just driving past. Slow, crawling. The engine idled for a moment, then the lights shut off. Olivia went rigid. Her hand clamped down on the grass. Her breath hitched in her chest. "Olivia?" I asked. "You okay?" Quote. She did not answer. Her eyes were fixed on the dark line of trees by the road like she was seeing something I could not. "He found me," she whispered, voice barely there. "Oh God, he found me." For a second I thought Olivia was overreacting, then I saw the car. It was parked just outside the cemetery fence, low and black and expensive. The kind of car that did not belong in our small dusty town. The kind of car men like me do not drive. The driver's door opened. A man stepped out like he owned the whole night. Tall, lean, dark hair slicked back, dress shirt with the sleeves rolled once. Just so. No tie, but an expensive watch on his wrist. Shoes that had never seen mud. He looked around like he was checking the place for dirt that might get on him, then his eyes landed on us. On Olivia. His face lit up with a smile that did not reach his eyes. "There you are," he called, voice smooth and practiced. "Liv, you gave me quite the chase." Olivia made a sound low in her throat. Her hand found my arm and gripped hard, fingers digging into muscle like she was trying to hold onto the earth. "Luke," she whispered, "that is him, Ryan." He walked through the open gate, hands in his pockets. like he was strolling into a bar and not a graveyard. "Olivia," he said again, like he was tasting her name. "You had me very worried. Vanishing like that. No note, no goodbye. You hurt me, sweetheart." The way he said sweetheart made my stomach turn. He stopped about 10 feet away, finally seeming to notice me like I was a piece of furniture someone forgot to move. "And you must be the neighbor," he said. "The cowboy with the nice hands." He looked me up and down, smirked, then turned his attention back to her like I did not matter. "I see the view from your kitchen window is better than I thought," he added lightly. "Ryan, you cannot be here," Olivia said. Her voice shook, but she did not let go of my arm. "I told you it was over." He laughed, a short, sharp sound. "You told me a lot of things," he said. "You told me you loved me. You told me you wanted a future with me. You told me I was your whole world. And then one day you told me nothing because you were gone." He took a step closer. I moved without thinking, shifting my body so I was in front of her, placing myself between him and Hannah's grave. Ryan's eyes narrowed. "This is private property," I said. "Cemetery closes at dusk." He tilted his head, smile still fixed on his face. "And who are you exactly?" he asked. "Groundskeeper? Local hero?" "Grief counselor for runaway girls who think they can hide out in the middle of nowhere and play cowgirl with someone else's land." His words hit something in Olivia. She flinched. "This is my aunt's land," she said, finding some strength. "She left it to me." "And you signed paperwork you did not read," Ryan replied easily. "As usual." He patted the front pocket of his shirt with 2 fingers. "I have the will right here. Half this place is in my name. Your sweet aunt liked me, remember? She thought we were good together. Thought I would take care of you." Quote. He looked around at the graves, at Hannah's name, at the oak tree, like it was all part of some joke only he got. "I drove a long way to pick up what belongs to me," he said finally. "You, the house, the land. I will even take the sad cowboy if he wants to come. You can teach my clients how to ride, Luke. We can make you useful." "I do not belong to you," Olivia said, louder this time. Her voice bounced off the stones. It surprised both men in front of her. Surprised herself. Ryan's smile thinned. "Olivia," he said softly, warning in his tone. "We talked about this. You have these little moments where you pretend to be strong, and I have to remind you who you are." He stepped again. "I did too." "That is close enough," I said. "You think you are protecting her," Ryan said, eyes on mine now, voice low and amused. "But you do not know her like I do. She is a runner, a mess, a girl who breaks everything she touches and then cries because the pieces are sharp." He flicked his gaze at Hannah's grave. "I see you like broken things," he added. "Makes you feel noble, loyal, a real man who keeps his vows even when she is 6 feet under. That must be exhausting, by the way." The words were meant to hurt. They found old bruises in my chest, places I have hit myself for years. But something had changed since Olivia walked into this graveyard. Since she heard me tell Hannah I was tired. The old pain was there. So was something else. "I am not the one who taught her fear," I said. "You did that." His eyes went flat at that, like a shark's. "You have no idea what you are stepping into, cowboy," he said. "She has been unstable for months. Her parents called me in a panic. Missing person. Proud son-in-law to be that I am, I hired a private investigator. Traced her credit card here. Little town. Little ranch. I am just here to take my fiancée home before she embarrasses herself any more than she already has." "I am not your fiancée," Olivia snapped. "I never said yes." Ryan turned his head slowly toward her. "I gave you a ring," he said, each word clipped. "We picked a venue. Your mother cried. You wore white. Your father shook my hand. That is what yes looks like, Olivia." She shook her head. "You bought a ring and told me what day we were getting married. I tried to tell you I was not ready. You told me fear was normal, that I would grow into the role, that once I learned my place, I would be happy." Her hand was shaking on my arm now. I covered it with my own. "Look at her," I said quietly. She does not want to go with you." Ryan's jaw clenched. For the first time, the slick charm cracked enough to show what was underneath. "I do not care what she thinks she wants right now," he said. "She is confused. She is always confused. That is why she needs me. I make decisions. I keep things on track." He reached toward her, like he had every right to take her by the wrist and drag her out of there. I stepped all the way in front of her then, my chest to his hand. "You heard her," I said. "She said no." His eyes lifted to mine, and the air changed. The night went sharper, colder. "You gonna hit me, cowboy?" he asked softly. "You going to throw the first punch in front of your wife's grave? In front of your neighbor, who is already half shaking apart?" Olivia pressed her forehead between my shoulder blades like she was trying to disappear or anchor herself. "I do not want to fight," I said. "I want you to leave." Ryan smiled again, but there was no humor left in it. "You want a lot of things you are not going to get," he said. "You want your wife back. You want to be a hero. You want to pretend you are not just as broken as she is. But here is the truth, Luke. You are both addicted to hurt. She is addicted to men like me. You are addicted to promises you cannot keep. You deserve each other, but not in the way you think." He stepped around me fast, reaching for Olivia's wrist. She jerked back, but he caught her fingers for half a second. It was long enough. The look on her face when his skin touched hers was pure panic. Not anger, not annoyance, fear. "Stop," she gasped. "Ryan, let go." That was it, the line. I grabbed his arm, hard, twisting it away from her, putting my body between them again. My fingers dug into bone and muscle. "Let go of her," I said, keeping my voice low so it did not shake. He wrenched his arm out of my grip and shoved me back. I stumbled, hit the base of the oak with my shoulder, and went down to one knee. Pain shot through my back, through the old scars grief had left. Ryan stood over me, breath coming fast now. "This is what I am talking about," he said to Olivia, gesturing at me. "You pick broken things. Men who cannot even stand up straight. Men who think saying no is enough to keep you safe. You think this guy is going to protect you when it gets real?" He turned back toward his car. "Fine," he said. "If you will not come with me, I will make this simple. I will go into town. I will talk to the sheriff. I will show him the papers that say half that property is mine. I will start legal proceedings. I will take your house, your account, everything your aunt left you. Then we will see how long the cowboy here wants to play savior when you have nowhere to live but his pity." He opened the driver's door, bent down, reached inside. Something cold slid through my gut. It was the way his body moved, the way his shoulder dipped, not like a man reaching for a phone. "Olivia," I said quietly, "get behind the tree." She did not argue. She moved fast, pressing herself flat against the rough bark, Hannah's headstone at her side like a shield. Ryan straightened. He was holding something dark in his hand. For a second, in the half-light, I could not tell if it was a gun or a piece of metal or just a heavy flashlight. What I did see was the way he held it. Easy, comfortable, like a man who had practiced. "You really should have stayed out of this," he said, stepping toward me again. My heart pounded. My ribs ached from the hit against the tree. The graveyard felt smaller than it ever had. I pushed myself up, stood between him and the place where Olivia was hiding, and realized something all at once. For 4 years I had been waiting to die in slow motion. Tonight, for the first time since Hannah took her last breath, I did not want to go anywhere. Not if it meant leaving Olivia in the hands of a man like this. I lifted my chin, met his eyes, and took a step forward. "Then, come through me," I said. Ryan smiled when I said that, but it was not a happy smile. It was the kind of smile a man wears when he thinks the ending is already written, and he is the one holding the pen. "You are not a fighter, Luke," he said. "You are a caretaker, a gravekeeper. You do not scare me." He lifted his hand and the moonlight hit metal. It was a gun, small, dark, too casual in his grip. "Ryan," Olivia's voice came from behind the tree. "Please, put it away. We can talk." He tilted his head, eyes flicking toward the sound, then back to me. "There it is. he said. "The begging I know so well. You always sound so sweet when you are afraid, Liv. Makes a man feel powerful." My hands were empty. My back still hurt from the hit against the tree. My brain spun through options and came up with one simple truth. I could not let him get past me. "You pull that trigger in this town," I said, keeping my voice steady. "You are not walking away." Quote, "You think anyone is going to believe the runaway girl and the sad widower over me?" he asked. "I have money, lawyers, paperwork. You have dirt under your nails." Somewhere in the distance, faint but real, I heard the sound of a siren. Just one, far off, carried on the wind. Ryan did not seem to hear it yet. "I am giving you a chance to walk away," he said. "You can go back to talking to your dead wife and fixing your fences and pretending that is enough. This is between me and Olivia." I thought of what he would do if I moved, how fast he would grab her, how quick fear would drag her back into that life she had barely escaped, how I would have to come to this grave and tell Hannah I let another woman be hurt in front of her name. "No," I said, "if you want her, you go through me." It happened fast after that. Men like Ryan always act like they have all the time in the world, but their patience is thin. He raised the gun. I moved. Grief had made me heavy for years, but ranch work made me strong. My body just remembered too late. Tonight it remembered on time. I lunged for his wrist as he pulled the trigger. The shot exploded in the quiet night, loud enough to make my ears ring. The muzzle flash lit up the headstones in a quick, harsh strobe of light. The bullet went wild, hitting the iron fence with a sharp metallic crack instead of flesh. We slammed into each other, his shoulder into my chest, my hands locked around his arm. He was taller, but I had leverage. We stumbled, boots sliding on grass, tripping over the edge of the grave marker row. "Let go," he snarled. "Drop the gun." I grunted back. We hit the ground. The impact drove air out of my lungs. His elbow caught my jaw. Pain flared bright. The gun skittered out of his fingers and spun across the dirt, stopping near a small angel statue 2 graves down. "Olivia?" I gasped. "The gun." She hesitated only a second, then bolted from behind the tree and dove for it, knees hitting the ground hard. She scooped it up with both hands, arms shaking. Ryan saw her. His whole body went sharp. "You are not going to shoot me," he spat, shoving at my chest, trying to crawl toward her. "You do not have it in you." I wrapped my arms around his legs and yanked him back. He kicked, catching my ribs twice. The third kick I caught with my forearm and twisted. He swore, tried to wrench free. "Stop," I growled. "It is over." He laughed, breathless. "Nothing is over until I say it is." The siren was closer now. I could hear tires on gravel, the crunch of a vehicle turning up the hill. Headlights swept through the trees and over the fence. "Drop it!" The voice that shouted that word was not mine or Ryan's. It was firm, loud, familiar. I looked up. A patrol truck had stopped at the bottom of the graveyard path. Sheriff Dale Cooper was already out of the driver's side, hand on his holstered weapon, his hat low over his eyes. Another deputy came around the far side, radio clipped to his shoulder, flashlight cutting through the dark. "Everybody freeze," Dale said, moving toward us. "Emma called from the barbecue. Said you drove out of there white as a sheet, Luke. I figured I better check the 2 places you always run to, bar and graveyard." He took in the scene fast. Me on the ground, tangled with Ryan. Olivia standing there with both hands around a gun, pointing it at the dirt, whole body trembling. "Olivia," he said calmly, "I need you to put that weapon on the ground and step back for me." She nodded so fast her ponytail bounced, lowered herself, set the gun down carefully like it might bite, then backed away with her hands up. Ryan went limp in my grip for a second, then twisted his head toward the sheriff. "Sheriff," he said, voice switching to smooth and polished. "Thank God you are here." This man attacked me. I was just trying to talk to my fiancé when he jumped me. "He's not my fiancé," Olivia burst out. Dale held up one hand to her without taking his eyes off us. "We will get to that," he said. "Right now, I need him away from you and that gun, away from everyone." The deputy grabbed Ryan by the arm and hauled him off me. I rolled to my side, chest heaving, ribs screaming. "Hands behind your back, sir," the deputy said. "You cannot arrest me." Ryan snapped. I am the victim here. That man tried to disarm me. I have a permit. I have every right to protect myself and my property. Dale bent, picked up the gun with 2 fingers, checked the chamber, then looked back at Ryan. Your property? He asked. Because far as I know, this cemetery belongs to the county. The house by the river belongs to Mrs. Green's estate, and then to her niece, Miss Olivia. And the woman you just aimed this at is under an active temporary protective order out of Dallas County, Texas, listing you as the respondent. Ryan's face went still. That order crossed my desk 3 months ago, Dale went on. Came through the system as a courtesy notice since the petitioner relocated to my jurisdiction. That would be the woman you followed across 2 states. The same woman who looks like she wants to jump out of her own skin every time you take a step. Ryan opened his mouth, closed it again, clearly recalculating. You pulled a gun on my citizen on county ground, Dale said. You fired it. You crossed state lines to violate a protection order. You threatened to take property you do not own. You think your lawyer's going to talk me out of doing my job? He nodded at the deputy. Cuff him, he said. The deputy snapped handcuffs around Ryan's wrists before he could finish his next protest. They walked him toward the truck, him still protesting how everyone had it wrong, how Olivia was unstable, how love makes people do crazy things. The words faded as the distance grew. The night stretched quiet again, broken only by the sound of the radio crackle from the patrol truck and Olivia's uneven breathing. You hurt? Dale asked me, turning back. I have been worse, I said, getting slowly to my feet. Ribs, jaw, pride, all still attached. He grunted. And you? He asked Olivia. She wiped at her face with the back of her hand. I am okay, she said, voice small but steady. I just want him gone. He will be gone for a while, Dale said. We will book him for the gun and the order violation tonight. We will sort out the rest with Texas in the morning. You will need to give a statement, both of you. He looked at us for a long second, then at Hannah's grave behind me. You pick some dramatic spots for your turning points, Harris, he muttered. I half smiled. I do my best. They left with Ryan locked in the back of the patrol truck, red and blue lights lighting up the edge of the cemetery as they went down the hill. When the sound of the engine finally faded, the only things left were the dark, the headstones, and the woman standing in front of me with her arms wrapped around herself. Olivia looked at the road where the truck had vanished, then at me. Her knees gave a little. I stepped forward before she could fall, and she hit my chest like she had been heading there the whole time. I wrapped my arms around her without thinking. She was shaking hard, like all the fear she had held in had finally found its exit. I am sorry, she said into my shirt. I am sorry I dragged you into this. I am sorry he came here. I am sorry I asked you that stupid question. I rested my chin lightly on the top of her head. You did not drag me anywhere, I said. He came because that is what men like him do. And that question was not stupid. Quote. She pulled back enough to look up at me, eyes swollen from crying, mascara smudged. You think I am good in bed, huh? I tried to joke, my mouth still sore. She huffed out a wet laugh. I think you might be good at something that matters, she said. Good at standing your ground. Good at listening to the difference between fear and love. I think you might remember how to be present, even if it hurts. I looked at Hannah's headstone over her shoulder. The flowers were still where I had left them. The line she chose was still there. Love is a promise you keep even when it hurts. For the first time since they carved those words into stone, I realized I might have misunderstood them. Keeping the promise did not mean staying frozen in the hurt forever. It meant honoring the love by living the way the person you lost wanted you to live. I made her a promise, I said quietly. Olivia's eyes softened. That you would love again, she said. That you would not let grief be your only companion. I nodded. I thought I was keeping it by talking to her, I said, by holding on. But tonight, when you asked if I was married, I heard myself the way you heard me. I heard a man who forgot that being faithful to the dead does not mean refusing the living. I took a breath that felt like the first honest one in years. I am not married anymore, I said, not to the stone this time, but to the woman in my arms. Not to her. Not to the guilt. Not to the promise the wrong way. Tears filled Olivia's eyes again, but they were different now, softer, brighter. "And me?" she asked. "Am I still married to fear?" "Maybe," I said. "But you just stared down the man who hurt you and held a gun without letting it own you. You called for help. You told the truth. That sounds like someone filing for divorce from fear to me." She smiled a little. "You and your ranch metaphors." "It is what I have," I said. We stood there in the quiet for a long moment, two people who had spent years living with ghosts, finally standing all the way in the land of the living. "Can I ask you something?" she said after a while. "Yeah." Quote, "You told your wife you were waiting for a sign," she said, glancing at the stone. "Do you think tonight was it?" Quote, I thought about the way the siren had sounded just in time. The way Dale had shown up before the worst could happen. The way Ryan's words had cut deep enough to expose old wounds that needed air. The way Olivia had looked at me in the barbecue light when she asked that question. The way something had woken up in my chest when she did. "Maybe the sign was not the drama," I said slowly. "Maybe it was you knocking on my wall with the worst question at the best time." Her lips curved. "You seem good in bed," she repeated softly. "Are you married?" I reached up, brushed a stray tear off her cheek with my thumb. "No, ma'am," I said. "I am not anymore. But I would like to learn how to be good in bed, for someone who can actually feel it, not just good at lying there with ghosts." She laughed again, that broken, bright sound that felt like sunrise. "I do not need a hero, Luke," she said. "I do not need you to save me. I need you to stand next to me while I save myself. I need you to show me that wanting does not have to hurt, that touch does not have to mean ownership." "I can try," I said. "I am rustier than one of those busted gates, but I can try." She slipped her hand into mine, fingers warm and sure now. "Then take me home, neighbor," she said. Not to him, not to who I was, to who we might be. We walked down the hill together, past the iron fence, past the spot where the bullet had scarred the metal. Two trucks waited at the bottom, mine and hers. The night air was cooler now, but not as cold. At the fork in the dirt road where our driveways split, we stopped. "Coffee?" I asked. "I make a mean pot when it is after midnight and the world has been on fire." "Only if you sit with me on the porch," she said. "And promise we can talk about anything but guns and graves for one night." "We can talk about horses," I offered. "We can talk about what being good in bed really means," she countered, a shy challenge in her eyes. I swallowed, heart thudding for reasons that had nothing to do with fear. "I thought we agreed that meant being present," I said, listening, not rushing. "Exactly," she said. "So we will start with coffee. Then maybe one day we work our way up to the rest. A year from now, I might tell you how the fence between our properties came down. How the paperwork that really mattered had both our names on it. How we fixed each other's broken water lines and broken habits. How the first time we shared a bed, we cried more than we touched because it felt like stepping onto holy ground neither of us believed we deserved. I might tell you how I came back to Hannah's grave one spring afternoon with Olivia by my side and finally said goodbye without meaning I was leaving her behind. How I told her thank you for loving me first so I could learn to love again. But that is all ahead of us. Right now, I am just a man standing in the dark with his neighbor's hand in his, realizing he does not have to wait for ghosts to give him permission to live. Realizing that being good in bed is just another way to say being good at loving someone who is still here. My neighbor once said, "You seem to be good in bed. Are you married?" Back then I said, "No, I am still waiting for her." If you are listening to this, if you have made it all the way to the end, here's what I know now. Do not wait so long for the dead that you forget the living standing right next to you. Do not let fear or grief be the only things you are married to. Ask the hard questions. Answer them honest, even when it hurts. And if this story touched you, if you believe in second chances and learning how to live again, tell me where you are listening from in the comments. I want to know how far this little ranch story travels.